Hey everyone, it's Shivam, and actually it's just me today. So this is a bit of an interesting trip for me because I am actually doing my first solo trip ever. Shipra unfortunately had to get back to work, so we ended up splitting at the Delhi airport, and I headed to here, which is Bangkok. So I'm in Bangkok for one day. It is a quick stopover before heading off to Malaysia next. And what I wanted to do in Bangkok was just try and see as much of the city as possible. So I have a tour booked later for today, and we're gonna just go around the city for about 5 to 6 hours and see various different popular sites. That's all I can really do in one day because the airport was about an hour away. It was actually a really nicely organized airport. It was very easy to get a car out here, so Grab is the app to use. Very simple. I was here in 40 minutes. And I just checked into the hotel here, which is an interesting place. It's a brand new 5-star hotel called Glow, and it's located right on the banks of the river that runs right through the center of Bangkok. Thailand's interesting, pricing-wise especially. This place only cost like 60 bucks. So far I've been pretty surprised with it. So let's go for a room tour. So as you enter the room, you've got a little storage area right here, and then right behind here is actually a bathroom. So we have a good shower, nice and clean, all very new and modern. And then the main part of the room is this big bed. So we've got that. And then one more thing is the balcony out here, which I was just sitting at. So it's a really cool place. I actually just went out to check out the hotel. The water view is really nice. There's a bridge right here, and there's also a really cool pool. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have time to really go in the pool today because I have to leave tomorrow morning at probably like 5 a.m. So I've only got very limited time, but maybe I can try getting a boat cruise later tonight. So I just left the hotel. I grabbed a Grab over to the tour starting point. It's a private tour, just me. And the first stop on the tour is the Golden Buddha Temple. So the Golden Buddha is actually apparently about 5,500 kilograms, and it's made about 700 years ago, but they don't know exactly when because they don't have any written record of when it was actually created. Right from the outside, you can already see just how ornate the temple is in which it's housed. So I'm excited to see what it looks like on the inside. So the temple is actually really interesting. One cool thing that we learned is that when they were actually transporting the statue over, it was actually covered in plaster. And they didn't realize until when it was being transferred that it was actually entirely built of solid gold on the inside. So that was a pretty cool thing. So we're walking through Chinatown right now, and it's definitely a lot more hectic. But it seems like there's a lot of interesting things to eat here. Not that I can eat them, but people come to eat like shark fin soup and bird's nest and various other things. Being a vegetarian, a little bit overwhelming from a sensory perspective for me, but it's cool to see nevertheless. It's definitely a lot more busy around here. I think an interesting thing I learned is that Thailand and China seem to have relatively good relations right now, which means that they get a lot of things tax-free. So you're able to get tax-free items taken in from China. And that's kind of reflected in the roads too. Like I can see a lot of electric vehicles coming in from China, BYD and various other brands, which we just don't get in America. So it's safe to say for me, the Chinatown wasn't exactly my scene because of all the meat. But taking a quick bus drive through the city, we're now in the flower market. So the flower market has a lot of different varieties of plants. It's really interesting to see because one bunch of flowers here is about 1/30th of the cost it would be in America. And I think like when we were planning our wedding, Shipra and I, one of the problems we had is we couldn't really get that many fresh florals because they're so expensive to get in America. But I can imagine here in Thailand, you can have an entire wedding just fully fresh florals. That's how many fresh flowers they had at this market. So one thing that's really struck me here in Bangkok is just how similar the culture is to India. So if you walk through the streets or you're driving through the streets, it actually feels a lot like you're in India, minus maybe some air pollution. And I think they keep the streets a little bit tidier here. But I think even walking through the flower market, you can see they make things like garlands, for instance. Those are very similar to what we make for Hindu weddings. And not only that, there's actually a big prevalence of gold markets here as well. Similar to India, they really like the 22 and 24 karat gold here. A lot of overlap in the culture. After a quick tuk-tuk ride from the flower market, we've stopped at the Temple of the Reclining Buddha, which is pretty astounding. It's probably the biggest Buddha I've ever seen in my life. Apparently it's about 50 meters long, and it takes up this entire room. And not to mention, just the feet behind me are of just gargantuan scale. So apparently it's not actually built with solid gold, unlike the last Buddha. This is actually has a plaster inside and more of a gold leaf coating. And if you couldn't tell, I got my bag right in front of me because this is also known as a very big pickpocket hotspot, given the amount of people in here. So best advice is just keep your stuff as close as possible. So this area in which the reclining Buddha is called Wat Pho. And this is a large temple actually, and behind me, these pillars actually represent tombs. So the previous kings, they were cremated here in Thailand, and they were placed under these, very similar to Egyptian culture where they have the pyramids where the mummies were placed. So it's pretty cool to see, and not to mention every building here is just so ornate. Everything's so detailed. There's so much gold usage. You don't get to quite see this in other places like India or Europe. You have these very angled roofs and flared edges and things like that. It's really unique. And to add to the Buddhas, there's a Buddha with serpents here, which is really interesting. I've never seen that before. It looks a lot like almost Shiva for Hinduism. So Shiva in a lot of depictions also has serpents or snakes coming out from the back of him. And that's very much similar to the statue that's here. It's really cool how the cultures here and the religions here all kind of meld together. So now we're making our way out of Wat Pho, and honestly, we saw every type of Buddha. Reclining Buddha, standing Buddha, principal Buddha. I think the only Buddha we're missing now is Laughing Buddha. So we're currently walking up 344 steps at the top of Golden Mount. All along the way, there's lots of little waterfalls and beautiful things to really see, but you could see the view from the bottom and it looked amazing, so I'm really excited to get to the top. So there's a lot of steps in this, and steps are never that much fun, but what is nice is that you get lots of great views in the back, as well as a really nice cool breeze coming in, because you don't really get much of a breeze on the ground, but it's really nice up here. So right in the foreground is Old Bangkok, and in the background is New Bangkok over here. And of course, no temple is complete here without some Buddhas. So here at the very top, we've reached the final pagoda, which is really monumental. You can see it all the way from down there. The significance of this building is meant to be sort of a burying ground for the ashes of one of Buddha's disciples. So similar to the stupas we saw before at the other temple, this is an even bigger one with an amazing view of the entire city. I mean, I think the climb was well worth it. It honestly took maybe 5 minutes because the steps are quite small. It wasn't even 340 steps. It was more like 150 or something. And it should be pretty easy on the way back down too. So we just wrapped up the tour for today. After the last temple, we ended up kind of finishing off the public transit trifecta by taking a boat down one of the canals into the center of Bangkok. That was a fun experience. It was a pretty quick boat at some times. It was jittering a lot, so it left me a little bit wobbly at the end. But after that, I decided to come and check out one of the most popular parks here, Lumphini Park, which is apparently having a giant festival at the same time I'm here. So I guess I'll walk around and see if I spot any of the monitor lizards this park is famous for as well. But on the way here, I decided to do something a little bit adventurous. I took one of the grabs, which was actually a motorcycle this time. It was pretty scary, honestly. It was going pretty fast, but it was honestly the quickest way to navigate the traffic here. I think it's a little bit busy now with the rush hour, but it was cool being able to take it and ride down the streets and get here in just about 5 minutes. But I'm not going to do that for any longer ride than now. I'm honestly pretty shocked coming here because this park is literally so nice. And it's just like in the middle of this massive city, and there's just like so much going on. It's like so peaceful too at the same time. I think Shipper would have really liked this one because there's so many kids out and about just playing on the playgrounds, and yeah, it's just a vibe. And I did spot one of the lizards. They are quite big. I didn't want to get too close. Let's see if I spot any more along the way, but yeah, they're pretty scary. So after checking out Lumphini Park, it was honestly time for me to call it a day. I hopped in a grab and made my way back to the hotel. It was a bit of a drive because of the traffic at that time. Last night I had only slept basically 3 hours on the flight over here to Bangkok. So now I'm really feeling it, and I was kind of falling asleep on the drive over. So my plan is to just take it easy for the rest of the night, and I'll see you in the next one when I go to Malaysia.